Are you a Muslim who's married or looking to get married? I'm sure you've heard that more than 50% of Muslim marriages are ending in a divorce. Now that's unfortunate, but there's help out there. My name is Hina Mirza. I'm a registered psychotherapist with a specialization in Islamic counseling. And I've been working with hundreds of couples building healthy, happy, strong marriages. Sign up for the course that I just completed with Happy Strong Family to foolproof your marriage and make sure that you have all the right tools and all the right skills to lead a healthy, happy, strong life with your partner.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. This is Brother Mushtaq coming at you live from the Happy Strong Family Studios here in Masjid Dar al-Iman in Markham. And today I have with me Brother Fayyaz. Brother Fayyaz, we were speaking off air about you being a Khateeb in downtown Toronto. Today we're going to talk up the life of a teenager, but not as you may expect. So stick around. As all the YouTube channels nowadays say, subscribe, like, and all that other good stuff. But the heart of the matter for today is we're going to actually take a little bit of a role reversal. We're going to talk up the role of teenagers and all the things that parents are within the periphery or the circle of a teenager. Right. So if a teenager is trying to be a good Muslim, then the parents are maybe not helping the situation. Right.
Sure.
Many podcasts ago, we talked about the halal quotient.
Yeah.
Some teenagers nowadays that one was done back in 2023, still applies. It's like, okay, if the Muslim guy listens to music, but he still reads his salah regularly. I'm not going to say 5 times, but regularly, okay?
Yeah.
Teens are teens. And so on a halal quotient, okay, you minus the music plus the salah, overall that's still like a 8 out of 10, right? Something like that, right? So now, Brother Fayyaz, what is happening right now in 2024 with the world of teenagers, right? Either parents are toxic, parents are not helping, or the opposite. Parents are just the best thing ever, so supportive. Like teenagers right now, especially Muslim teenagers, right? I grew up here in Canada, born and raised.
Yep.
You grew up here in Canada,
Yep.
born and raised.
Yep.
But when we were growing up, I mean, I'm now 50. I turned 50
Mashallah.
back on the 22nd, right?
Mashallah.
So, but I grew up in the 80s.
Mashallah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that was a different time back then, man.
Yes, it was.
Very different
Yes,
time.
it was.
Now it's a challenge.
Yes. It always was a challenge. I mean, come on. Like, this is one thing I always hear, but, generation after generation, the kids today, every generation was tough.
Oh, no. So I've turned into that old meme, right?
Our parents were complaining,
Yeah,
our grandparents were complaining about our parents. Like,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Our grandparents were complaining about our parents back in the day,
Yeah.
saying that, oh my God, kids these days.
Yeah.
And we were the generation that our parents were complaining about once upon a time. And now we're both dads.
Yeah.
We're both dads.
True.
And God, like, help us. We say, how many times have my children heard me say, back in my day, complaining about them on their devices. Mom and I never had anything worth more than $100. You guys have devices that you just take for granted. Or my biggest beef is, your punishment, I cut off the internet. Like, that's the thing I threaten them with. Okay.
Yeah.
But the irony I tell my wife is that, what? Their punishment was our normal when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Me cutting off the internet for you is a punishment. For us, it was like, there was no internet to cut us off from. So it's just, but that's the world we live in today.
So then tell me, Brother Fayyaz, I mean, with teenagers,
Yep.
Right? What happens if, say a Muslim teen, girl or boy or girl, they're wearing the hijab, they're growing the beard, they're going to uni, and they're trying to be their best authentic self.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But their environment, maybe their friends, maybe their parents, again, because we're taking a very different approach today. In past episodes, we've always talked up, hey, this is what you do as a good parent. This is what you do to kind of make yourself a better parent, right? But today we're going to talk up the other way around and say, okay, teenagers, teenagers inherently, their own fitra is to be good. Okay, so let's just take that.
It's good.
Let's extrapolate that a little bit and say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of good Muslim teens out there.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure.
And
For
they're wanting to be better, or they're just
100%.
living their authentic
100%.
halal
Yeah.
deen life. Maybe the parents aren't so supportive. So what advice can you give to teens out there, and what advice can you give to parents to be like, hey, parents, like,
Yeah. Oh,
you know, reality check or
awesome.
something, right?
No,
Let's
no,
just
no.
off the books, like, let's just talk it up.
Totally. Okay.
Straight.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala amma ba'd. Okay. Lots of things to unpack over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, let's start with the kids. Okay, let's start with the kids. Number one, I want to emphasize over here that, you know, we have to establish the rights of the parents first. I mean, you have to recognize that their parents, they brought you in this world, they've provided for you. You are where you are now on account of them, whether you like it or not. You are a product of their effort. We have to establish that. And what the thing we have to be very cognizant about is that Allah establishes this in the Quran, you know, in many places. I mean, to the point where Allah in the Quran says, you know, you can't even say oof. I mean, and that's it. I mean, we all know what oof means, but by extension, that also means that you can't go, you can't get upset or show your frustration at them, right?
Yeah.
So now I also want to establish one thing. I was a child first before I became a parent. So even though I'm a dad now of teenagers, I was a teen first, born and raised here. So I completely understand and know that paradigm that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I went to university over here. Okay.
Me
so
too. Yeah.
yeah. So I lived it. So I can speak from, you know, firsthand experience about that. So number one, let's establish the rights of the parents.
Sure.
They deserve. Nauman Ali Khan, you know, he said it best. Parents do not deserve unconditional obedience, but they do deserve unconditional respect.
Okay, I like that. All right.
Okay,
all right.
and I have to agree with that. They don't deserve unconditional obedience. That only belongs to Allah and His Messenger. But they do deserve unconditional respect. And you know, like yes, down 100%. Okay, we established that. Having said that, they're also human beings. They're flawed, which means they're flawed. Okay, now, and inherently, I would like to think all parents, or I would say most parents want good for their children.
Yeah,
I'd
say
most, if not all,
Yeah.
but definitely most. Okay,
Yeah.
we have to establish that. Okay,
if not all.
exactly. No. Unfortunately, there are exceptions, but we have to establish that. Okay,
Yeah.
So kids, your mom and dad are on your side. They're not the bad. They're not the enemy. Please. Having said that, let's start from the basics now.
Yes.
I think there are I've identified, I think, 5 ways our young people, our shabab, boys and girls, I feel can win favor in their direction for privileges, freedom, just, you know, the space. 5 ways, 5 areas. Okay, and we can start from the beginning. Number one, and since you mentioned university, education. How good are you doing in school? How serious are you taking your education right now? Because, you and I are both dads, right?
Yeah.
And I think I speak for both of us when we say we both want our children to excel in their studies.
Yeah. 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's our priority, and there's no exception about it. So number one, how well are your kids doing in school? And if they're demonstrating that, well, that's a good thing. So you have to, you know, address that issue, young people. If you're taking your education seriously and you're demonstrating that with your grades, you're making us happy as parents.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So that's one way you're going to earn our respect for you.
Okay.
So, and let me backtrack a little bit. You're not entitled to respect. You have to earn it. You have to earn that respect and trust, that space, that freedom. You are expecting. No, you don't expect it. You earn it.
So that brings me to a point. That's all about adulting, isn't it? Right? When you're adulting, it's like I had a colleague once who, believe it or not, she was in her 30s, and she was like, "Oh, Mirza, this is all about adulting," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is adulting, isn't it? Right?"
Yeah.
So you become an adult. You're given those that freedom of choice, right? And then obviously with every action there are consequences.
100%.
So be responsible for your actions. I think is
100%.
what you're saying, right?
100%. I mean, think about it. Like, I'll say this: I'm I've been mentoring many grown men, young adult men. Some of them are in their 30s actually, and they're having this similar grievances about their parents, like, oh, my mom and dad don't respect me, and this and this and this. And one of the things I point out to them is, again, like, I mean, well, what's the situation at home? Like, I mean, is there a pattern of behavior for what have you done so far? Are your parents constantly bailing you out, even though you're in your 30s? Because they expect at their age, well, mom, dad, you should leave me alone. I haven't, like, I'm a grown man now. Well, yeah, but if they're all constantly bailing you out in spite of your age, well, you clearly have not earned that privilege yet.
Ah, right. Okay. Good point. Yeah.
I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm being honest. It's the honest to God truth.
Yeah.
So coming back to our young brothers and sisters in university, high school, even, I'd say number one is your education. Are you doing well in school? If not, then, clearly, you got to step it up. Show that you're taking your education seriously, because that shows you're taking your life seriously, your future seriously.
All right.
Okay. Number two, I would say, is your spare time. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Well, what are you doing at home? Are you doing your chores? Is your room a mess? Are you constantly on the internet? Okay.
Or on your phone?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Do you help around the house? Okay. Or are you sleeping in all the time? Or are you on the phone? Whatever. All of those things. All of those things. What are you doing with your now? That's some of the negative side. Are you always playing sports? Are you working out at the gym? Yeah. Do you have your driver's license? Do you have a part-time job? Are you going to the masjid, for salah? Are you memorizing Quran? Are you learning another language? Are you learning Arabic? Are you attending halaqah? What are your extracurricular activities? Do you have a skill? A hobby? What are you doing outside of your school or your day job or part-time job or whatever? What are you doing? So it's your spare time, right?
Okay.
The other thing I'd say is, what are you spending your money on?
All right.
What are you spending your money on? And I'm going to be a little hard. I'm going to give the sisters a little bit of a pass over here, but brothers, I'm going to come down a little bit hard on you guys now.
All right.
Well, here's what I'm going to say straight up. You guys have to have a part-time job. Men have to be earners. I'm sorry. And I understand you're in school, but I remember a teacher in high school told me that the students who tend to have part-time jobs are also the better students. And that's the irony, he said, because one would think that the one who didn't have the job had more time to study. But the point is that those who have the part-time job are more responsible, have better time management skills, are more conscientious of, their futures. And so they're harder working.
Right. Okay.
They're not as entitled,
Makes
not
sense.
as lazy. Right. So now they have a
sense.
part-time job. So boys, men, young men, do you have a part-time job? Okay. Inshallah, you do. Now, what are you doing with the money? Do you have 20 pairs of shoes at home? Do you have, hundreds of video games?
Right.
Are you constantly going to the movies? What are you spending your money on all the time? My advice is number one, save that money, manage your money. But another thing I would strongly emphasize here is, are you giving any of your money with pride to your mom? Right. Here's a question, a simple question. Mom, here you go. Here's $100 every 2 weeks. Here's $100. Not her asking you, just out of love for her. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that is for a couple of reasons. First of all, Allah in the Quran says men are the protectors and maintainers of women. Allah did not say husbands are the protectors and maintainers of wives, or sons are the protectors and maintainers of moms, or fathers are the protectors and maintainers of daughters, or brothers are the protectors and maintainers of sisters. No, men are the protectors and maintainers of women. So that's your mom. She's a woman. She's your family. She gave her heart and has given her heart and soul to raise you. You have no reason not to say simply, you know what, out of love. You should feel a sense of, not that you're even compensating her, but, again, that should come from within. Just here, mom, for you. That's it, and I think that does multiple things. Number one, teaches you a sense of humility.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one. But number two, you're preparing yourself for real life. One day you're going to be a husband, so you're learning to be a provider of the family. You're going to earn respect from your mom for sure. She's going to love you to pieces for that. But hopefully your dad will see that and recognize that too. And if not, make no mistake, your mom will let him know about that too.
Yeah.
The other thing is, Allah will bless your wealth, because charity starts at home. Yeah. And there's no greater charity than helping out your parents.
Good point.
I'm being honest.
Solid point.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing. What are you doing with your money? Are you, here's the other thing for the boys. One chef pointed out, men, don't waste your money on clothes and shoes. Get together, start a business. You have no reason to be, fooling around and, squandering your wealth. Even as trivial as it is, you have a little bit, start an online business. A lot of these big corporations that tech companies were started off in dorm rooms or in the garages of their parents.
For sure.
Of their parents' homes.
Yeah.
So why aren't you hustling? You know, get going. Come on, you know, like start thinking big. And I tell young people all the time this message, and I always drill it home. You don't respect yourself, no one else will.
Yeah.
If you don't respect yourself, no one else will.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'm going to ask, so we talked about your spare time. We talked about your education. We talked about money. Now I'm going to say, who are your friends?
Oh, okay.
Who are your friends?
All
who
right.
are you hanging out with?
All right. All right.
Are you hanging around with guys on the street? Are you guys, are they ballers? Are they just playing sports all the time? You know, are these guys who are hanging out at the club all the time? Are these guys, like, who are they? And I'm not saying necessarily they're always going to be bad people, but if you're going to be hanging around people, and I'm giving a metaphor here, but if you're hanging around people who are smoking, you're going to become a smoker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're going to hang around studious people, you're going to be a studious person yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that would be my advice. And by extension, now, one of the things I'm going to hammer to both brothers and sisters on this point is you have to have a connection with the masjid somehow.
Oh, definitely.
And by that, I mean, not just, of course, for the brothers in particular, salah, but what I'm saying for both brothers and sisters, find a masjid that has a weekly halaqah that you can go to. One sheikh online, I remember him saying this, where do we find good people? Simple, good places. Where do we find good people?
Yeah.
Good places.
Yeah.
And there's no better place than the masjid.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to find the best people. So you're going to find young people, you know, and not just necessarily your local masjid.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a masjid that may be a little bit further away, but has more opportunities, more programs for young people like yourself, where you can meet, you know, like similar-minded people.
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm talking about. And by the way, like that, it's not just so that you can meet good people over there. It's also to receive that direct guidance and mentorship from a sheikh, from an elder, from an imam, someone who will get to know you now. You're going to be part of the community now.
Yeah.
Both brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
This is a religious form of networking.
Yeah.
Building that, you know, your circle now. And this is how also, if there is conflict at home, you have someone to go to and say, Sheikh, or, you know, Imam Saab, look, I have a problem at home here. I'm dealing with this struggle. Or maybe you can't go to your mom and dad for an issue that you're dealing with at school or whatever, but you still need to address the matter. Sheikh, I have an issue here. This is what happened. Can you help me out here?
Right.
I'm too embarrassed, you know, to bring this up with my mom and dad. Can you help me, please? Or it could be a friend from that halaqah as well. Like, you know, at least someone reliable and trustworthy. You know, have that security and confidence, knowing that this is someone who is, alhamdulillah, upon the deen. He's going to give me good advice. You know.
Right.
So I mentioned also now your social circle, and you know, and finally the places where you visit.
Okay.
Frequent, you know.
Do tell.
Meaning, are you always, again, I said earlier, are you always at the mall? Are you always at the movie theater? Are you always playing basketball in the gym, in the court? Are you always working out? I don't know. And I'm not saying they're all bad or good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. But where can we find you? Are you always at the masjid? Are you always at the library? Are you always at school? Are you always working? I don't know. But it's indicative of who you are as a person. You know, are you always at the masjid? Well, that's a good sign. Are you always shopping? Well, that tells me something about you. Well, I'm not buying anything. And maybe you're legitimately working at a store, then that's okay. Okay. But like I said, on your spare time, on your free time, where are you hanging out now? And that tells me who you are. Right. And this tells your parents now, like, okay, so how are they doing in school? What are they doing with the spare time, their education, their money, the places where they are? That is building a three-dimensional picture of this individual. And if you are hammering out all of those 5 points, in my opinion, you're going to build a good reputation for yourself or your parents. And if you're demonstrating responsibility in all of those areas and showing that you're doing good work for yourself. Like, here's a very perfect example on the issue of money.
Sure.
We all have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Who's paying your bill? That's my point. That's my point.
Okay.
Is mommy and daddy paying your cell phone bill? Or are you being responsible and paying for your cell phone?
Okay.
That's a simple question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a driver's license? Number one, yes or no? Do you? Yes. Do you have a car? Are you, and maybe you don't have to, that's fine. Are you at least paying for the gas?
Right.
When you use the car?
Yeah.
Simple point.
Fair
Are
point.
you showing responsibility on your own, by the way? Are you being proactive, or does dad have to come and knock on your door and say, where's the gas money? I had the tank full the other day and now it's empty. What's going on? Okay. Are you showing responsibility? Yes or no?
Right.
And here's the other, one sheikh told me something really interesting some time ago. He said, one of the things he looks for in a future son-in-law is, does this man know martial arts? Because if he can't defend himself, he's not going to defend his family. So here, I mean, there you go. Is he working out? Does he have, is he learning some kind of a fighting skill for the, again, self-improvement, for health, for fitness.
Yes.
Is this what he's doing with his spare time? That shows responsibility, maturity.
Right.
These are the things I'm talking about to our young people that they can do to curry favor in their direction from their parents to earn that trust, that responsibility, that that space. Say, Mom, Dad, look, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and this is surely like you can give me that permission. You don't have to check up on me, or you can allow me some space to go spend some time with my friends, because I think I've demonstrated in enough areas or enough places where that I'm trying to do the right thing voluntarily from my own.
Right. And that's the operative word here, right? Voluntarily.
Well, this is
in a few select areas to show that responsibility, right? That the art of adulting.
Exactly.
As to what we're really talking
I'm
about.
willing to accept criticism, or willing to accept an alternative way, or alternatives to interpret again how to adult, as you're saying it. But the point is, like, I see this as being a very solid foundation to work with.
Yeah, 100%. Now, producer Kashif, the voice behind the camera, do we have questions on the question board, please?
Yeah, Jazakallah. We just had one come up. So
awesome.
Someone is saying, brother is very passionate, mashallah. Jazakallah khair.
Mashallah.
How do teenagers manage to balance all this? Deen, school, working, paying their own bills, etc.
Oh, okay. Good question.
$1 million
Solid
question.
question.
Allah in the Quran says, and fear Allah as much as you can. Fear Allah as much as you can. So if you're studying, you're in university, you're in a very intensive program like engineering or whatever, fine, you do you. Okay, do as much as you can, but there's a certain minimum that is expected. Meaning, okay, you're not able to have a part-time job, you're not able to do this, but because you're so consumed with your studies. But you're obviously going to be praying 5 times a day, and you will have a social life of some kind. Who are the brothers or sisters that you are studying with outside of your classes? And that's my question. Okay, do you have a car? Do you have a vehicle? I mean, these are things. And again, this comes to the spare time now. There will be summer holidays. There will be reading week. There will be winter break. There will be, moments to demonstrate responsibility. When you have reading week, are you in Daytona Beach, Florida, or are you at home helping mom and dad out?
Right.
And that's a simple question. And I'm saying Daytona Beach. That's an exaggeration. I'm not trying to suggest anything. All I'm saying is, have you disappeared, or are you present? And are you trying to help around the house? Are you trying to, make your presence felt in a positive way in the community, or at the very least in your home?
Right.
Are you a positive role model just for your other siblings? It's a simple question, So yes, in terms of the balancing act, your foundation will obviously be your education. Beyond that, let's see where we are. And then, your friends. Here's a simple thing. Every mainstream university has and mainstream program will have its share of Muslim and non-Muslim students. I, as a parent, would hope that my child, if there was an opportunity to study with Muslim students, would choose to be with Muslim students of the same gender, by the way. But the point is, preference will always be given to like-minded fellow Muslims. I would hope so. And that's where the balance comes in. You do the best you can.
And I think too, in terms of balance, look, Fayyaz, you and I we grew up here, Toronto. We both understood and lived the Toronto life as teens. Okay. So now I'll go back in my own, teenage years. I'll use myself as an example.
I'm gonna lie.
So why
Let's
not?
do it.
Why not? I'll put myself out on the line. Eaton Center.
Yeah, oh yeah. I know it like the back of my hand.
Who as a teen didn't go to Eaton Center? Come on.
I went to UFT St. George. It was downtown Toronto, of course. Got a moment go.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So when you say time management, it just hits me like a brick wall. Yeah, 100%. If I look back at my life now, and if I could rewind to that era,
coulda, woulda, shoulda, right?
No illusion, to any particular singer coming into town. So of the Eras tour.
Alhamdulillah. I didn't do that. I never went to a club, or I never went to a concert. But that's just me. And no judgment.
So again, with teenagers, right?
Yes.
I think with teenagers, and again, having been one myself,
of course.
If I could go back in time and say, man, if only I was able to manage my time better, right? Yeah. And really laser focus in on a few areas, like you're saying, the 5 areas I think are absolutely perfect.
MashaAllah.
They're amazing. Because when I look back at my own life, friends, I could have probably chosen friends better.
We all
100%.
Yeah.
Time. Oh, I think that was a big one for me.
That's everyone.
Right?
Even now.
Even now, as a 50-year-old man, I'm like, come on, you know, like there's not enough. I say to myself, there's not enough hours in the day now, right?
No.
But I think back in my teenage years, is like, you know, do I really need to go to this class? I'll catch the notes from a friend, right?
I did that too.
It's a tutorial, or it's a lab, or it's a whatever. I'll catch up later, or you know, I'll get my friend to record the notes on their phone, and boom, I'll be done, right?
Right.
Or it's a recorded session. Do I really need to go?
Exactly.
Nah.
Gotcha.
You know, better money management skills. Oh, 100%. I think we, even as grown-ups, we still suffer from that.
Yeah. Did we? Yeah. I mean,
do we really need that the latest Coach handbag or the Louis Vuitton belt?
Well,
I don't know.
just forget that we have to eat out all the time as kids, right? I mean, think about it. You know, $5, $10 here, there, it adds up, right?
Adds up. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So what like, I mean, what you put yourself on the line? What, you know, like, yeah, I mean, I see your point. And what I by the way, that's one, I hope what I don't want to project is this false sense of piety from my end, meaning like, look, we're all guilty of it too, 100%. Now, that being said, my shortcomings is no excuse for anyone else. I hope not. I mean, we all made mistakes, some more than others. At the same time, I will also point out that I actually tried to practice what I preach today. I can, you know, and my parents will bear witness to that. Far from me being perfect or ideal, but yes, I mean, I can speak to my experiences. That's why I can point out that, yeah, I have a track record and I can speak to it, and I try to lead by example. And that is the point. That is what I'm trying to show for our young people as well, that you lead by example.
Yeah.
You have to lead by example. That is the best form of leadership, period. Okay.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more.
You know, and having said that, yeah, there will be shortcomings. Like Umar ibn Khattab, brother Anu, he said, if a person does something repeatedly, he's known by it. So did we go to the Eaton Center? Yes. But were we always at the Eaton Center is a different question. We're, you know, like, did we go out and shop or spend some money on this or that? Okay, that's fine. But are we always doing, like I said, do we have 20 pairs of shoes? Or you know, like, do we have a home full of, you know, a closet full of, you know, suits or, you know, shirts, whatever? I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But you get the point. Do we are we getting the latest video game?
Yeah.
I don't know, right? But like, I mean, that's the question. What are we doing with our time and our money? Where are we spending our social life with, right? Are we at the masjid? Are we going to, you know, Islamic events or not?
Right.
You know,
right.
Are we helping out around the house? That's the other thing too. Like, you might be always like, I mean, I'm going to be honest, and there, some brothers are, unfortunately, I'm tiptoeing here now, because some brothers, unfortunately, will be very active with the masjid or with the community at the expense of the home. Mom is like,
good point.
Mom,
yeah.
Mom is complaining, you know, where's my son? The room's not clean. My daughter's not helping me out around the house.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's the weekend. But Mom, I'm at the halaqah. Yeah, but you know what, brother, sister, if, you know, going to the halaqah is fine, but if Mom really needs you, then she needs you.
Yeah.
You know,
it's that balance.
Now,
right?
You know what? On this point, I want to make a very serious issue here, and that is, you have to, young people, please have a connection with Allah. And why am I saying that? I mean, okay, that sounds okay, wishy-washy theory. Yeah, we all do, don't we? What I'm trying to say, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says, whomever gives up something for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace with something better. So what does that mean? Let's say you are giving up some of your free time to help around the house, to help your mom and dad. All right. Or you're giving some of your money, like I said earlier, to your mom to help just because. Yeah. Okay. Or you are, I'm not saying you have to give up something that is halal. I'm not, like, obviously, you know, like, some things like going to the masjid, you would think is, yeah, there's nothing wrong. Mom, why are you giving me a hard time under the masjid? Yeah, but I mean, aside from salah, like, you know, mom is the priority. I'm sorry. Okay. And if she has an urgent need, then you should help out. If it isn't urgent and you know well enough that, you know, she's just, you know, trying to hold on to your, you know, then try to convince her. But mom and dad are still a priority here. And what I'm trying to say is, let's say you sacrifice going to the halaqah or sacrifice going out to dinner with your friends, Muslim friends, to a halal restaurant, and you're not going to do anything but halal and righteousness or whatnot by spending good quality social time with good people. Allah will replace that sacrifice that you made that one time or multiple times for your family with something better. So you have to have that trust in Allah, that I'm not doing this in vain. I'm not missing out. I will be compensated. And you have to have that trust and hope in Allah that I'm doing the right thing for a greater good that inshallah will come my way.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Excellent point. Now, Brother Fayyaz, I want to kind of turn the tables.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know in our earlier notes, and especially on the poster for this week's episode, there's also the topic of how to deal with difficult parents, right? So we're obviously putting ourselves in the shoes of a teenager in 5 areas, saying, okay, if you're focusing on these 5 areas, you've earned the trust, the respect.
Inshallah, it will help.
Inshallah, it will help with your parents.
Yes.
But let's just say, and as we already said at the top of the podcast, right? You know, inherently, most, if not all, parents want the best for their children.
100%.
But what if the parent is being difficult? And there are a number of situations that this could arise from, right? Maybe again, like that teen, that girl, or that boy, they're going down the path of deen. Maybe their parents are not so deen focused, right?
And they're Muslim.
Right? So that can cause issues. I've seen that firsthand with families. Okay. To this day, I still get comments, you know, oh, you're Canadian, you're an executive, like you have a beard. Like, what does that have to do with anything? You know, I do this beard as a symbol of my faith. End of story. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm in the corporate world or not. Really, does it have any bearing on it? No. You know, if you decide it does, well, then that's up to you.
And oftentimes the biggest critics come from your home.
So again, you can face all kinds of, you know, adversity.
Yes.
But when it comes to parents, that's a real sore spot for a lot of people. So how can teens navigate in this scenario? And then we'll touch upon other scenarios. But I think this is an important one.
Okay. No. Well, again, you're bang on. This is a fitna that a lot of people are dealing with, dealing with, and will deal with as well. It's the unfortunate reality. Okay. So number one, I'm going to say, please, as children, you have to understand your parents, unfortunately, will always see, regardless of whether you become a successful doctor, lawyer, dentist, engineer, whatever. The truth of the matter is, and one sheikh, these are not my words, this is the sheikh's words, they unfortunately will see you as just someone whose diapers they've changed. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that's how they see you. So you have to embrace that reality. I'm not saying it's correct. Just accept that this is how they see you. They don't see you as their equal, and they never will. They will always see you, some of them, and I'm talking specific about those difficult, you know, who's this? Right? Those difficult parents, especially, all they can see is someone whose diapers they've changed. Number one.
Got it. All right.
Number two, there's another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that is a generic hadith, but it is beautiful because it is so applicable in these cases. So, which I will come back to later, but I want to mention the hadith. The Prophet said, I guarantee someone a house on the outskirts of Jannah, to the one who gives up arguing, even if he's right. Even if he's right. So please, you know, apply that with your mom and dad. Don't argue if you can avoid it. Please. Okay? Just give it up. Okay? If necessary, please. Like, I'm sure there is a time and place absolutely to take a stand on principle, 100%. But try to avoid it if possible. Okay. For the sake of Allah, again, remember. Okay. Now, that being said, deening, there are certain areas you cannot compromise on. For example, salah or Jummah. Right. Like, son, you've got to go to class. I'm sorry, I have to go to Jummah. Or it's time for salah and I have to. Okay. No. I'm sorry. No. But you have to be respectful. That doesn't mean now that you have to have a temper tantrum and you want to, you know, start raising your voice. And like I said, Allah said in the Quran, not even off. Okay. You know, you don't even have to even respond. You have to go to class. Okay. But I'm going to go and pray, you know, whatever. They're like, you have to use hikmah now, wisdom, meaning, are your parents going to class with you wherever you go all the time or not?
Right.
So yes, if there is room, wiggle room to establish your Islam as much as you can, do it. Allah in the Quran says, and fear Allah as much as you can. So number one, you cannot compromise on areas where there is no compromise to be made. So for example, you cannot just say, your parents are saying, oh, no, just pray your Jummah. Ignore the 5 daily salah, just go for Jummah on Fridays and that's it. And believe it or not, there are a lot of Muslims who think like this. There are. I mean this. I know this. I've seen this.
Right.
Oh, you know, like, seriously. No, we're not like, you know, we're not like other cultures or other faiths. We have to pray 5 times a day. And that means taking time to out of our class, whether you're in school, to find a room. And the unfortunate reality also, kids, you and I don't know your family background too well, but I'm going to assume your parents, like mine, were immigrants.
Yeah.
So exactly. And so again, as youth, please understand your parents are coming from a different paradigm. Culture was different at the time over here. So they were not aware of the realities, or they're aware of a different reality, and they have assumed that reality has carried over to your generation,
right?
Where there was rabid racism, Islamophobia, intolerance, and of course there's also an element of colonization. I mean, our parents didn't come here to become better Muslims. They came here for the dunya. They came here for a better life, for a better world, for better education, all of those things, freedom, all of those things. So understand their paradigm, be empathetic, show some empathy, understand. Don't think that it's a hard-on battle here. Again, where are they coming from? But again, use wisdom now when you negotiate and try to discuss or deal with these issues. So no compromise. Please don't compromise on your salah. 100%. That goes for brothers and sisters. When it comes to sisters also, for example, I'm sure there are parents who are resentful of them wearing the hijab. Again, there's no compromise. That's your awrah. I'm sorry. But again, don't be harsh. And this is where, again, going to the halaqah helps, because now you have an outlet. You have an imam that you can speak to, or other sisters you can, almost like a support group, and say, look, I'm dealing with this. How do you guys manage?
That's it. Yeah.
And and they can make, the imam can say, or the sister, if it's a sister halaqah, for example, she might, well, let me talk to your parents. Or if it's an imam, a respected imam, let me talk to your dad.
Right.
Let me know, brother, what's the issue? And there are some people who are just simply going to say, I don't care. I don't want you wearing that. Well, I'm sorry, Dad. No, I can't, and I'm sorry. I love you. And the way you can mitigate that now is, again, get those A+ in school. Maybe give, get a part-time job, give some more money or something, or try to curry favor whatever way you can. But, again, there is, this is going to go in a dark path, but I have to say it, there is potential for abuse. And yes, parents are guilty of that abuse. And I'm just simply saying, there is, there are, if there is a compromise to be made, there is, but unfortunately, sometimes those hard decisions have to be made where maybe I have to move out.
Yeah.
Maybe I do have to.
Yeah.
Okay. And there is, and Allah will find a way out. And that is your test. And remember that is your test.
Right.
Okay. And the interesting thing is that this is like your tarbiyah now for the greater good, for the future. Don't, blame Allah, or don't be angry that, oh man, it's this, why me? Or, no. Again, I've used this example before. I'm not a big fan of it, but for the layperson, I think it works best. It's Bruce Wayne,
of Batman.
Exactly. He came from a millionaire family, but his parents were killed. What did he do with that pain and that sadness and that anger and that frustration? He leveraged it. He channeled it into becoming a superhero.
Yeah.
Batman, in order to fight crime. He could have used it to spiral out of control and be, party, to become the Joker. But he chose a different path. And that's what you need to do. You're given difficult circumstances, make the most out of it to grow as a person. I mean, obviously that's a metaphor. We're not talking about real life with Batman here, but the concept still remains.
Yeah.
So, the point is, rise to the occasion and grow and develop to be a better person as a result. And that test that you're dealing with is meant for you, because again, one sheikh pointed out, Allah does not test a servant beyond what they are capable. Allah says that in the Quran. So if you're being challenged, it's because Allah knows you can handle it.
Right.
It's because you're tough enough. So rise to the occasion. Thank Allah that you're that you are this strong. Wow, this is a tough challenge, but that means I'm good enough for this. I'm strong enough. Okay, rise to the occasion, handle it. But of course, what is the Islamic way to handle it? Can we compromise? This is the thing now where let's say a sister wants to wear a niqab, for example. And I mean, there's a difference of opinion. There is ikhtilaf on this. This is where perhaps maybe she should reconsider until maybe after she's married, perhaps. Okay. For the brother now, I mean, now we were talking about the sisters over there. With the brother, for example, should he grow his beard?
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I'm not going to say, one sheikh openly said, actually, one I admire and respect and look up to, said that because according to most madhahib, the beard is a sunnah, obeying the parents is a wajib, it's fard. then you should listen to your parents and shave the beard. My advice, I'm not going to contradict the sheikh, but I will say is, why dad or why mom? What is the real issue? Is it that you're afraid I'm not going to get a job? But like, I mean, look at Jagmeet Singh, who's, the leader of the NDP. Oh, no. I mean, I'm just saying, right? I mean, like, I remember my mom would say the same thing to me. You know what I would say to her is like, okay, mom, after I shave my beard, do you want me to change my name too? Or do you want me to paint my skin white?
Yeah.
Like, where do we draw the line?
Right.
And she didn't have an answer for that. That's the irony. There was no, like, okay, like, I mean, there's always room for compromise, but then at what point, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
So, and that is the hard truth. That is the hard truth. And so, can I compromise? Yes. If I can, okay, fine. Like I said, like, I mean, but you also have to, there is a adab and akhlaq, a decorum that you have to use always with your parents.
Yeah, I like that.
And when it comes, again, now to the elements of compromise, there are limits. There are, like I said, with the salah, with the fasting. Oh, no. Even though it's Ramadan, you need to study. Don't get up for suhoor. It's okay. Allah is forgiving. No, I'm sorry, dad. Or I'm sorry, mom. I have to do this.
Right.
I don't have a choice in the matter.
Right.
So things like that. Now, when it comes to, let's say, going to that conference in, another city or doing something else like that, you can compromise on. So, well, because that's not fard now. You're not going for Hajj, for example, right? That's not Hajj. That's a nice getaway event with Muslim sisters or brothers to an Islamic event to, get inspiration, motivation, conference, books, speakers, whatever, all that. But it's still optional.
Yeah.
So if you can compromise on that, like, this is where your ability to negotiate comes in, to compromise comes in.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
And again, hopefully you get into medical school or law school, mom and dad will be the ultimate, happy parents, then, you can write your own ticket at that point. But again, like is it a challenge? 100%. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, it is. Producer Kasha, any more questions?
Yeah, we had one come in live, and then we had a few others from before.
All right.
So I think we were talking about young people and just a connection with Allah. So one of the questions was asking, what's the best way for young people to establish connection with? It said halal, but they had a follow-up comment that said they meant Allah. So
all right.
Oh,
with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Simple point. When you make salah, you're talking to Allah. When you read the Quran, Allah talks to you. Just think about that.
Beautifully said.
When you pray,
it's so simple.
Exactly.
So simple.
When you make salah, you're talking to Allah. When you read the Quran, Allah talks to you.
Oh, beautifully said.
So how do you have that connection? There you go.
Start there.
The dua, I can't emphasize. Learn the concepts of dua. I cannot emphasize that, because unfortunately, and this was one of my. I forgive myself because of my ignorance, but for a very long time, culturally, dua was just a ritual. And I'm sure you and I can relate. You can relate to that.
Yeah.
After salah, we pray, okay,
That's it.
Okay, and then done. We're okay. I didn't realize until years later that dua is a personal connection, is worship. It is you calling out to Allah and seeking Allah's help in your own language, speaking from the heart, asking for anything and everything that you can desire and want. Good, not just for the dunya, but not just for the akhirah, but for the dunya as well. Yes, you are allowed to ask for that Ferrari. Yes, you are allowed to have, a good job, money, wife, kid, all of those things. There's nothing wrong, and there's no shame in that either. Okay, so start learning to make dua. That is how you have that connection, and your iman will go up exponentially, because some of your dua will actually be answered.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back. You will get what you exactly asked for, and and that's the one thing that people have to understand, is that you're not always going to get what you want, but you will get something. But that connection with Allah will happen, like I said, with making dua through salah, outside of salah, and then when you read the Quran, Allah talks to you. So yeah, that's how your relationship comes in, socializing with good people. I just literally a couple of days ago, I was listening to a lecture. A sheikh pointed, there's a hadith: shaitan is furthest away from two people, but close to one person. Meaning, when there's several good people together, the shaitan is the furthest away. So if you have multiple people, again, good company, right?
Yeah.
Reminding you of Allah,
Yeah.
right? Staying away from the haram, eating halal, mashallah, praying salah on time together in jama'ah, right?
Yeah.
Shaitan is away from those people.
All right.
But the lone sheep, the wolf is always going to go after the lone sheep.
Yeah. Well said. Well
So
said.
again, keeping good company.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. So yeah, so to the questioner over there, right away, I would say is, again, salah, reading the Quran, being around people who remind you of Allah.
Amazing.
Being at the places that also remind you of Allah.
Beautifully said, and so simple. So simple.
Exactly.
Producer Kashif.
Yep. So we had a few questions come out. I was actually at a gathering last night. It was a wedding, and there was a lot of teenagers there. So I was just sort of poking them on, what's on your mind. So one of them was like, my biggest thing with my parents is my brother, who's a year younger. He has free will to do anything and everything he wants, but I have all these rules and stuff.
Ooh.
So, any suggestions for her?
Maybe I can answer that one. So,
Please.
as a father of 3 kids, and I get this question from each child, but I always tell each child that my eldest daughter is I love her the most because why? She's the eldest, and she's the firstborn, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Then my middle child is my son. And I clearly tell my son that I love him the most. See what's happening here? I love him the most because he's my only son. And then my youngest daughter, in the series of 3, I tell her I love her the most. Why? Because she's the baby of the family, right? So, now as a parent, though, to actually do that, it's the hardest thing in the world
100%.
because I could easily, and I'll always point not just one finger or one finger at myself. I'll point all 5 fingers back at myself, and I'll say, look, it's the hardest thing to do as a parent, that you will have a default, you will have like a favorite child, and it's to the detriment, and I say that again, and I'll look into the camera, it's to the detriment of your other children. No,
I disagree with you right there.
We fall back.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay.
We fall back, and we might have a favorite. But in this particular instance, where producer Kashif is saying, the youngest gets away with everything, right?
Right.
It gets away with murder or whatever, gets away with everything. And I'm the one that's always like, right. And sometimes my elder two feel that, or sometimes my eldest feels that. And I say, look, you have to look at the age. Now I'm talking about myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll explain
Sure.
what maybe I would do or maybe I wouldn't, because again, I'm not going to judge anybody here, right? But in my situation, I say, look, the rules that apply to you now, i.e., because you're 17 going on 18, we have to apply a little bit more of a stricter structure. Maybe stricter is not the right word, but a more structured approach to how you live your life, because you're approaching 18 than your baby sister who's 9. There's a massive
Absolutely
age difference, right? So when you say, eldest, she gets to do everything, she gets away with whatever, and you guys are always babying her. Well, we're babying her because yes, she's technically the baby of the family. So
exactly.
Her, rules that would apply to an 18-year-old don't apply
100%.
to her, right? Like she needs to be given a little bit more leeway, not freedom, but leeway to learn.
Right.
Learn.
Of course.
So now would I in that situation kind of, producer Kashif say, oh yeah, you know what, the youngest can get away with it, whatever. It's the hardest we have to be the strictest on, and this is just the way it is. But what's your hot take on this?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say to you, you're allowed to have a favorite. I hope you realize that. You just have to be just in how you express that in your love for your family. Meaning, look, you might love your son because he's your only boy, and you might love your eldest daughter because she's the eldest, and your youngest because she's the baby. That's fine. But at the end of the day, when you shop for clothes, you have to buy clothes for everyone. When you go out to dinner, you have to buy food for everyone. Okay. Privately, you're allowed to have a favorite. I mean, Allah has given you one heart, and that's it. The Prophet ﷺ had a favorite wife who was Aisha, and believe it or not, his wives knew that. But he didn't mistreat them either. Okay. And that's the point. That's the point. And it's not like he isolated everyone except Aisha either. Right. So yes, like I said, I disagree with him that you don't feel guilty. You are allowed to have a favorite.
All right.
You are allowed to. It's just how you express that love and how you treat them under different circumstances. Because look, the problem occurs when, let's say, one child does, or 2 children do the same wrong thing, but one gets punished and one doesn't, or one gets a slap on the wrist and the other one.
There you go.
That's the problem.
There you go.
So to Kashif's question over here now, again, it's $1 million question. I dealt with it because I'm the absolute eldest in my family.
Okay.
So it's like, well, what's going on over here? This this sibling is allowed to go here, there, everywhere. What about? So yeah, I would agree with the parents in the sense that, okay, if they go to a kid's house to play toys, that's one thing, but that doesn't mean I have to let you go to the mall now. there's no comparison. I hope you realize that. Okay. However, again, this is where the responsibility comes in, meaning like, have you demonstrated to me that you are deserving of that freedom as opposed to this kid who's just maybe going next door? You know, like, do you want to go next door too? Is it the same way, or is it relatively speaking? Now, to be fair, yes, some parents are lenient towards the baby to the point where, yeah, he goes whatever, blah, 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 does this and this and this and this. But you, sir, you have to be at home. Well, I mean, I have to talk to the parents now. What's going on here? Are they not both your children?
Yeah.
Are they not both expected to follow rules?
Right.
What's going on here?
Right.
Because you, and I saw this with my own eyes in my own home, the excessive freedom that was given to my youngest brother, unfortunately, you know, had some serious consequences down the road, because initially it looked innocent enough. Oh, he's just going to a friend's house to play Nintendo. It's okay. He's just going to go play Nintendo.
Right.
But that Nintendo, in the beginning, that kid moved away. Then it became another kid. And because my dad had already opened that Pandora's box to give him permission to go to a friend's house regularly, all of a sudden it was like, okay, he couldn't. It was much harder to close the door now. So to that parent, I would advise, you have to really reevaluate your situation and say, look, am I really being unjust? Or am I being fair here? Because you're accountable to Allah on the day of judgment. You will be held accountable. You don't have a blank check.
Right.
And I have to emphasize that with parents now. Honestly, you need to maintain, if you want respect, you have to demonstrate that with your level of justice. And believe it or not, your kids will be happy to follow you if they see that you're being fair. And that's my word of advice to parents. You be just. I'm not saying, and being just does not mean to crack the whip. Your kids will respect you for your justice because they can see the consistency now, and kids will pick up on that.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point. Producer Kashif.
Yeah, then the other one that came up last night was, you know, we were just discussing something, and he like pulled up this phone, typed in the question, "Is this halal?" And the first return that came up, like, so basically Sheikh Google was answering questions for him, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, I don't trust your answer here. This is Sheikh Google, right? Where can young people go? Because then once we got talking, he's like, his imam is not accessible, like just goes away right after prayer. He's been emailing them. He hasn't got the answers to questions. So what advice do you give to young people for like legitimate answers to like religious questions they might have?
Good question.
And you know, maybe like is it TikTok and Instagram?
No.
1 minute reels.
Good question.
Let's get off of social media altogether. Honestly, nothing will replace a real life human being. Okay, so my advice is, if your local imam is not accessible, go to another masjid and really sit down and address the sheikh, or get to know the person honestly. But you have to make that effort. The Prophet said in another hadith, whoever takes one step towards Allah, Allah will take several towards that person. But the key here is you have to take the first step.
Yeah.
Remember that. That means you have to hustle. You have to make that effort. And if you're sincere, you will.
Right.
Don't take shortcuts. Don't take the easy way out. Don't cut corners, please. You want real answers, real solid foundational, a foundation, then speak to a sheikh. And not just, again, I even have a problem with just speaking to a sheikh, because look, that's not learning. Just random questions here and there. Yeah, I can Google it too. Like, a fiqh question, or like, does this break my wudu? No, but like, if you have a real problem, that definitely Sheikh Google is out of the question, or Sheikh TikTok, or Wiki, whatever. No, go sit and speak to a sheikh and build that relationship. And that means, yeah, I have to take the bus, or I'm going to have to book an appointment, or just maybe go for salah. And that means maybe being in the front row, and then right after saying salam, Sheikh, I need to speak to you. Can I have 5 minutes, please?
Yeah.
I need to sit down with you. Or go for, and Jummah is another example, right? Like where you have to meet with people.
Yeah.
Or you have to be in congregation. And so I have to emphasize that you have to make an effort. And I'm sorry, it might be difficult, but it'll be worth it. And it's good training for you now, because you'll take your religion seriously. And that's the point.
Excellent advice.
Your religion is worth it.
Yeah.
The truth is worth it.
100%.
That's the point. I mean, think about it. It's like going to, do I go to a fast food restaurant to get a burger? How healthy is it going to be for me? But if I take the effort and spend that extra money for a healthy steak and salad and whatnot, it's going to be definitely have long-term benefits. Yes, it's going to cost me more, but it's worth it. Same thing. More importantly than especially is it for your deen.
Yeah. Excellent point. Excellent point. Great session. Producer Kashif, we're approaching the top of the hour.
Yeah, we're approaching the top of the hour, but there was a very interesting conversation going on last night with
Uh-huh.
teens and back and forth. So maybe just your thoughts. There seems to be like a trend of where you talk about people making it easy for their children to do halal. Like, so I've heard stories now of where there's been like 16, 17-year-old boyfriend, girlfriend situations where the parents have gotten them married and just they still live with the parents, they still go to school, but they've sort of halalified the relationship. So it was they're not living as husband and wife, they're living with their parents, but they're like free. So this came up as an interesting conversation, and the uncles got involved, and everyone had different takes on it. So I don't know.
I know I know of cases like this.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you brought it up.
It.
Okay. Now I will never condemn anyone for getting married. Period. Married, because marriage is halal. It's a strong sunnah, and it's very strongly encouraged. I'm now talking to those parents who are trying or thinking of getting their kids married early to avoid the haram. Okay, I'm talking to those parents now, not the young people. Okay, don't ever marry your kids out of fear, please. Okay,
another excellent point.
Don't ever get your kids married out of fear, because that's not what the point of marriage is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tell my son this, and mashallah, my son's. I thank Allah for allowing me to be the parent of all of my children. But one of the things I said to my son, who's 19, I said to him a couple of things. Number one, and we're mature adults. I said to him, man to man, being horny is not a good enough reason to get married.
Right.
Pardon my language.
No. This
being horny is not a good enough reason alone to get married.
Yeah.
Okay. Plain and simple. Number one. Number two, if you're mature enough to have sex, then you're mature enough to be a father and have a family.
Yeah.
So that's my question to anyone. Okay. So to those parents who are thinking, oh my God, they're 16, they got these raging hormones right now, and I already see them texting each other and whatnot. Maybe if I just halalify it by getting them married and they can move into the basement. Okay. Is this a long-term solution, or will they be divorced in 2 years, except that your daughter will have a child now, or the other girl will have a kid now, or 2 kids, and then they'll be divorced and God knows what. So
Valid point.
This is what I'm saying now. So my issue here is there's nothing wrong with getting married at 16, 17, but have you raised them to be at that maturity, to be mature enough to be married at the age of 16 or 17, or did you just recently discover that they were just some horny rabbits and decided, oh, shift gears, let's just quickly get them married, and okay, now hang on, this is not some fairy tale where they live happily ever after.
Yeah,
marriage, it's not like a Bollywood movie where they get married and then that's it. Okay, it's a smooth sailing.
And it comes back to that concept of adulting, right? Look, so when you're in your teens, you're in school.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
You're either in high school or you're in uni.
Okay.
College.
100%.
So, Mufti Menk said in one of his lectures that when you get married in uni, chances are could be that once you get out into the real world as an adult, you're working. Let's just say both now young spouses are working. They're now holding full-time jobs. They're pursuing further education, whatever. They've maybe got their own apartment, their own place to live. All of a sudden, it's a different.
100%.
Right? It's no longer high school. It's no longer uni. You're no longer living in the comfort of your parents' home. Right? That's when you actually understand the other person.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
So it's no longer this, like you say, it's not a certain context where it's all just everything's being looked after. Mom is coming home, you're coming home to mom. She's cooking your roti and your curry or whatever. And like, hey, mom, thanks. But right now I got to go see the missus downstairs, or I got to go because, we have a date. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a little bit fairy tale land.
100%.
But then once you get into the real world as an adult, all of a sudden things are different. Right. So to your point, it's just my long-winded way of saying marriage requires a lot of maturity.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of maturity.
Absolutely.
A lot of maturity.
100%. Oh, for sure. My point to that, though, is, and I'm not trying to contradict or challenge what any sheikh is saying, but what I will say is marriage is not between two people. It's between two families. So I don't have a problem I don't have a problem with two people getting married, whether they're in high school or university. And I'm being honest here. My issue is that can you prove to me you're mature enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
Both girl and boy, or
Yeah.
brother or sister. And I'm talking, I'll use my own family as an example. Like if my son came to me and said, Dad, I'm ready for marriage. Oh, really? What's your plan? How? Who's going to be paying your rent? Where are you going to live? Oh, no, Dad, I can't afford to go out on my own. Okay, that's fine. And I can respect that. I can appreciate that. That's fine. Maybe you're not ready to go out on your own yet. But what does that plan look like? Or do you expect me to be there for the next 10 years with you?
Yeah.
Or are you in an education program right now that is going to lead to something successful, and you've demonstrated to me, like, are you in med school, law school, dental school, or are you in a, mashallah, you're at Jamia Azhar, Medina, you're studying your Islam full time, you've taken your life seriously, you're going down a certain path, and this is where you're going to be headed, and we can start planning now. I can understand that and respect that totally. Or you're in high school, university, you're doing well in school, but hey, guess what? You're been mature enough, managing your time well enough to start your own online business, that, or you have a startup now that is starting to bear fruit. You're earning enough money to, hey, pay the rent now. You have a livelihood while you're in school. You've demonstrated to me that, okay, now he is showing, or she has shown maturity and is now looking to take the next step. Okay, now we can have that conversation. And I am willing to allow myself to invest in that relationship too. That means, oh, do you need help with the rent perhaps? Or do you want to stay in our house?
Right.
And we can support you. And I would be proud to do that. But you see, we're talking about adulting again. We're not talking about kids getting married. We're talking about adults getting married.
Yeah.
They may be 15, 16, 17, but they've demonstrated they have more maturity than 30-year-olds. Okay? That's the point.
Yeah.
And that's the emphasis. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here, is that we're not just talking about two kids who are just horny rabbits who just want to get into the bedroom.
Yeah.
Marriage is about raising a family. Can the man provide?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reality of the world we live in today. Like, do you have a skill? Do you have a livelihood? Don't just say, oh, tawakkul on Allah, but mom and dad, you're going to be there for us, right? Excuse me. Don't take us for granted now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, but all these things that we've talked about, those 5 points I'm talking about, the whole, like, think about it, though, that you're preparing yourself for that moment of getting married.
Yeah.
That is the point. Like, you can manage your time, money, you got a good circle of friends and whatnot. You're going to the right places. You know, you're doing well in school. All of those things are going to help you in that direction.
Yeah.
But like I said, parents, please don't get your kids married out of fear.
Excellent point.
Did you not prepare? Like, you think about it. Did you inculcate the love of Allah in them, the fear of Allah in them? With single, married, like, do you think the temptations to do the haram end with marriage? If anything, it gets worse. You know, like, I mean, let's be honest. Okay, the reality is that like, you will have other temptations, other challenges. What now?
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, except maybe in a few years, God forbid, if things don't work out, then you have a young child with a child.
Yeah. Producer Kashif, we're good? All right, we're good. So we're going to wrap up.
Wow,
we've reached the top of the hour. That went by super fast.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Super fast. We covered a lot of ground.
Yes. And there's so much more to talk about, but hey, we could do a part 2 whenever.
We'll definitely do a part 2 for sure.
MashaAllah.
So thank you for tuning in. This was a session, an episode that I will ask everyone watching out there that share. And for any teenager going through maybe some hard times, just trying to deal with their parents, definitely have them watch this video. 5 areas that Brother Fayyaz covered very skillfully. And yeah, as much as you want to talk up teenager, what ultimately happens is that teenager is preparing themselves, herself, or himself to become an adult. So if you are facing that, then definitely watch this session, this episode. If you know somebody who's going through that, we've always said on every podcast, on every episode, no one should suffer in silence. No one should suffer alone.
Never.
If you're going through that, then just, this episode's here for you. You can always reach out to the show producer Kashif. We're on Instagram and we're on YouTube, and you can find us here. Tune in live every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. This is Brother Mushtaq.